Welcome to the Fearlessly Authentic Sash and Soul podcast. In each episode, we'll explore the power of embracing authenticity with a winning mindset and overall well-being to help you navigate life and the pageant world with confidence and resilience. I'm Rayanna Johnson, former Miss Wisconsin and founder of Fearlessly Authentic Coaching. So let's dive in. Welcome to Sash and Soul. Hey, you guys, welcome back to Sash and Soul. We're at it again with potentially one of our last Crowned and Candid episodes in Sash and Soul. And just as a reminder, and to those of you that are new, well, first of all, welcome and thanks for tuning in. But just to share, Crowned and Candid was really born out of this idea that we really want to provide more transparency for you about what the life of a state title holder looks like. The good, the bad, everything in between, the business side, the personal side. Because I think oftentimes when we build something up in our head, something that we dream of becoming or we've dreamt of becoming in the past, we kind of build up this idea of it. And sometimes that idea feels unattainable. And we kind of build up this idea of like perfectionism of what we then need to attain personally in order to achieve that goal. And that's just not it. I always encourage my clients to sit down with the outgoing title holder or a very recent title holder, if they can't sit down with a current title holder, to get a realistic job preview of what this looks like. If you're serious about doing this job, you have to be like very clear on what that big picture, what the job looks like for you so that you can see yourself in it. And so that's what this series is really meant to be. And today I have the pleasure of introducing to you Kalyn Melham. This is Miss Indiana 2024. And I can already tell from just like the brief little conversation that we've had together that this is going to be a really heartfelt conversation. So I'm excited to dive in. But as always, I want to share her overall message with you that we were just chatting about. And I typed it up almost verbatim, which I was excited to like capture because the words are so beautiful. She says, it's important for everyone to understand that this is just another experience in life. And regardless of if it's your first time competing or if you never make it to Miss America or never make it to the state level, it in no way defines the next steps for you. It can be a world that you visit and you have a great time, and then you go back to life outside of it. We're just people on this earth, and you can either wear the title or it can wear you. And I literally have chills as I'm reading that. So thank you for those beautiful words. I'm excited to hear more from you, Kalyn. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. This is so exciting.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm coming to you from Carmel, Indiana. I actually just moved to this apartment like not even a week ago. So life is it's busy. I started a new job at Butler University. Go Dogs. I'm also currently rooting for our Indiana Pacers. They have their first playoff game in the NBA Finals tonight. So those are some things that are just fresh in my mind right now. But yes, I am Miss Indiana 2024, 2 weeks left in my year. Boy, has it been an amazing experience. I don't even know where to begin. There are so many words that I could, like, some people are like, there's no words. And I'm like, no, there's so many words. There's so much to share. It's been incredible. I am thankful mostly for the community of people that have been through all of these transitions with me in my life, especially my new fiance, because I did just get engaged like 3 weeks ago. So
it's fresh.
It's fresh. So
Congratulations.
Thank you. And transitions in life all over the place, but that's what life is. It's made up of transitions. There's so many blessings among the chaos, and yeah, I'm trying to think about other things I can just say about me generally. I did grow up in Indiana. I have an undergrad and a master's degree from Ball State University, and I'm so excited to get acclimated in the Indy area.
What are you going to do with your degrees? Were you working before you were crowned?
I was finishing up my graduate program. So I was a grad student during the week of Miss Indiana. I had to take off classes, and I was a grad assistant as well. So I worked part-time during grad school, and 3 weeks after I was crowned as Miss Indiana, I graduated with my master's degree. I decided to pursue Miss Indiana full time so I could optimize the experience and try to just say yes to everything. That was kind of the goal I set for myself. And upon returning home from Miss America was when I decided, okay, I think it's time to think about a more traditional career path for myself. And that is what ultimately landed me to be an admission counselor at Butler University. So I work in admissions. I'll be traveling to Michigan and different parts of Indiana to recruit prospective students to come to Butler.
What a fulfilling job.
It's really cool because especially at Butler University, that is where the Miss Indiana candidates stay during Miss Indiana week. And so that was like the first time I was introduced to Butler. And Butler, the first time I saw Butler's campus was my first time at Miss Indiana week. And something about it was just, it was special. And it just goes to show again that, Miss Indiana Week and pageants in itself is just another life experience that can open other doors for us. And I'm so excited to be in a career path that encourages prospective students to continue their education and find where their passions align academically.
What a wild year. You graduate from grad school, you go to Miss America, you start a new job, and then you get engaged.
That's right. And I moved on top of it all. Yeah,
That's a lot.
a lot.
Yeah. Okay. How long have you been competing? What was the journey to Miss Indiana like for you?
I did not start competing in pageants until college. I was 18 years old and I really wanted to compete for Miss Ball State University in 2020. Of course, 2020 has a little bit of a ring to it where the pandemic comes
Yeah.
into play. And so my first half of my pageant experience was kind of shelved for a while, and that's okay. I mean, that time of life came with its own scenarios for everybody. But I did pageants over the course of 2020 until 2024 when I became Miss Indiana. And I only went to state twice. And before punching my ticket to the Miss Indiana stage, I was the Delaware County Fair Queen. And I got to compete at the Miss Indiana State Fair pageant. And that placement, and so there were 114 girls at the state fair pageant, and I was able to walk away as the second runner up. And that was the first time that I thought, hey, if I just relax and don't worry so much about the outcome or put every ounce of my well being into where I'm going to place, it's crazy how much you can do when you don't worry about it. Because then I didn't sit there and think, oh, I need to impress the judges. It was more of I just want them to get to know me and I want to get to know them. And if they have a question for me, I'm just going to answer it as Kalyn. And it was astonishing to me to see how if I just relaxed, it always worked out a lot better than when I put a bunch of pressure on myself.
Was there a pivotal moment that you realized that it just clicked?
I think it was that pageant because then after that pageant, that's what motivated me to try to compete for Miss Ball State University again as a senior. And then I became Miss Ball State and competed at Miss Indiana for the first time. And I went back to that anxious mindset. What's the girl doing next to me? How can I be more like her? How do I follow the footsteps of a girl who placed well last year? When at the end of the day, it's so obvious if someone is trying to mimic the mannerisms or habits of the person next to them. And that it never got me anywhere. And it got me in my head. I felt stuck. And so I'm thankful that I had another opportunity to go to Miss Indiana. I think that Miss Indiana 2024 was going to be the last year I competed for it either way. And I remember kind of having that moment of closure, regardless of the outcome. But I had a wonderful team of local directors that just reminded me that you don't have to show up as anyone else but yourself. You don't have to put a pressure on yourself or an expectation. Just show up as you, see where it takes you. You're prepared. Go in there, hit play, and have fun. And I walked away as Miss Indiana.
It happens.
It
Like when
does.
you let it go, all of a sudden, I used to call it, I haven't said it in so long, but I used to call it like the little Bo Peep effect. Like if you let it go, it will come to you. Like leave them alone and they'll come home kind of concept of
Yes,
the sheep.
absolutely. What I think is hard about that though is we don't always choose when we actually let it go. And that I don't know how to tell someone, "Oh, just let it go." Like we don't really decide that. Like, I think you just have to learn to let things go. You have to learn how to relax in certain environments. And that's why I was so glad I got to do Miss Indiana twice, because I'm someone who needs to be familiar with her environment. Literally the stage, the backstage, the dressing room. Like, what does it look like? That way I can actually visualize myself there. I don't know if it's an element of maybe it's a mental thing that I have. I don't know if there's like a word or a diagnosis for that, but I'm not going to be fully comfortable or relaxed or let things go until I can visualize what I'm going to be doing. So the first time I do anything, I don't think it is going to, I don't think I'm going to be relaxed. You know what I mean?
Right. There's always an air of the like uncomfortability with the unknown.
Yo, yeah, absolutely.
Right. Right. And it's interesting because I think it's a common experience. Talking about like you don't really choose when you let it go. It just kind of happens or it clicks all of a sudden. I think it's really common for women to go and compete for the first time, not know what they're doing, like super green and just like have a great time or like whatever. I'm just here soaking it in,
Yeah.
trying to get a hang of this. And then the next year, if they've had some success or they get that bug and they're like, oh my gosh, I really want this, I'm going to go after it, then you push too
Hmm.
hard, you work too hard, and you're looking for all the things that you're supposed to be doing or should be doing.
Hmm.
And that's when like it doesn't work
Right.
usually. I mean, rarely would that ever work. And then you're kind of forced to realize it. Like, oh, well, that didn't work. The first time around it worked. What's different? What's
And it's
changed?
hard. It's different from person to person, I've learned, because I know, like, I knew that the Miss America opportunity wouldn't be something I would get to do again. So I think for me, like, I didn't even know where to begin when it came to goal setting, and there was so much momentum building up to it that I thought I had to want something or had to feel a certain way or it all had to be special, when at the end of the day, I think I was just so happy having a seat at the table. Like, I think I was just happy that I got to be there as Miss Indiana. And I think I let that get away from me because all the hype and the send off and this is how we measure success in pageants. And it's like, no, like what we talk about on podcasts like this is how we measure pageants. Because when I got home, I got a job, and I think that's very successful. And I think moving and being in a new space and taking care of myself is very successful. And all of those intertwined together to work out for me. And so looking back, I think it's like I had that pressure of, well, you won't get to do Miss America again. You won't get to become familiar with the space. Like, you just have to go. And maybe now I realize my goal was to just be there and to take it all in and enjoy the week for whatever came with it. And I think that that's okay, because most of the time, a girl's probably going to go there and not know what to expect. And that's okay. Like, I think it's okay if you don't have a vision for your week. I think it's okay if you don't even have like hard set goals. Like, you can just show up sometimes. It is okay.
Yes, and practice trusting yourself
Yeah.
to just show up and be okay
Yeah.
in that space
Yes.
because you'll be able to handle yourself no matter what comes at you. This concept of don't expect anything, but know that you're prepared for everything.
Right, absolutely. And I think that there's so many different personalities that come and go in the pageant world. And I also feel like I've been on a glorified detour in life with Like, I didn't grow up doing pageants, and I don't think that that kept me from embracing them fully in any capacity. But I wasn't really the girl who put on a dress and started crying. Like, I think that'll
Mm,
happen for me when I go wedding dress shopping soon, because it's like your wedding day, and it's the boy and it's the family, like, like it's a family ring. Like, that to me is, I'm very emotional when it comes to family. But I didn't, cry when I would put dresses on and it felt like I was doing something wrong. I didn't journal like a front to back pages every night at Miss America because I would be sleeping. And I didn't have, like, when I had false eyelashes on, I didn't like, it was itchy, like, there were just parts of me that I was like, I don't fully fit the same mold that the girl next to me might. And that's okay, because I'm still here. Like, I'm still at this table, and I'm really grateful for that.
What was it like as you kicked off your year as Miss Indiana? Like, this
Oh,
is something I don't know that I've really talked about with anyone on Crowned and Candid yet.
yeah.
Um, but it is kind of a pivotal time in your year because you're like diving in and trying to adjust and get used to it all. So what was that experience like for you?
That was, I would say, the most exhilarating part of the Miss Indiana year for me in the best way, too. I did graduate. I did move back home so I could do this full time. And so, again, it was another scenario of transitions.
Yeah.
But I loved the freedom of being able to just be Miss Indiana and showing up and yes, I will be there. Yes, I'll sing the national anthem. Yes, I'll come speak to the kids. Yes, like I think I just embraced it fully and I didn't think twice about anything. I didn't look back. I just enjoyed it and it was so much fun. I felt very alive. It felt very surreal until like month 2 or 3. And I think it was, I mean, it took some time to adjust to, hey, every weekend or even days of the week, you're going to be driving hundreds of miles sometimes. Like you're going to be going all over the state and sometimes to sister states. And so getting into that rhythm and routine, it took a little bit of adjusting, but I wanted to. I remember telling my directors, I'm trying to, like right before state last year, I was envisioning the year as Miss Indiana, not a crowning moment. Because I think everyone's like, oh, to be crowned as Miss Indiana, and you visualize a crowning moment. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think to truly put yourself in the position of being a purposeful title holder and understanding what comes with the year as Miss So and so is visualizing yourself in that position. Having a plan that is almost mimicking like a business structure. Like I think it's important to really prepare yourself for what that would look like because that's what the first chunk of my year was okay, let's do this and now let's go do it, let's go live it out. It's a lot of fun. My directors sat me down not even 12 hours after being crowned as Miss Indiana and they just said, we are here to guide you however we can, but this is your year and however we can help you, let us know. And I think as someone who I'm a pretty independent girl. I am. That was wonderful because it allowed a space for collaboration. And I didn't feel like I had to surrender any passion of mine or give up something that I was really wanting to pursue as Miss Indiana.
What were there parts about the job that you were surprised by or looked way different than what you expected?
Definitely, yes. I think what surprised me was how how much responsibility we have on social media. And I do understand that in some cases that's just a choice. Like you can choose how active or how non active you want to be on social media, and either way is okay. But I think to really optimize and reach as many people as possible or make the most out of the memories that you're creating for yourself, having a camera can help with that. Having other people to connect with in a digital space, it's a tool. Social media can ultimately be a tool if we allow it to work as one. And so I was shocked with not like creating content or the feedback necessarily, but I continued to kind of raise the bar for myself based on what I would see on social media and how I thought the way people view you is only social media. And there are some elements to that that's true, but I think with social media comes a lot of peer pressure. And not the peer pressure that you hear like in middle school of like, oh, do this because so and so's doing it. But it's more of, hey, live up to an expectation that this industry may have had about this title you're having. There's an expectation that maybe was there at one point. So I think adjusting to that throughout the year and keeping up with a platform that I'd never had a platform with that much significance or inspiration, I guess. I tried to be really careful and purposeful at the same time, but it was a really great opportunity too. And it didn't scare me. It wasn't something I ran from, but that's something that did surprise me.
What were your most negative, or maybe one of your most negative experiences with social media?
Oh, I have a sensitive heart. And so I've compared myself to other women multiple times. I'm not afraid to admit that just because I think how you handle those comparisons in your head and how you pick yourself back up from maybe that negative mindset, that's what shapes you into who you are. I mean, I'm so proud of how far I've come from like the middle school girl I once was who would look at some influencer who probably edited a photo, and then somehow took it to heart and it like would make me really hard on myself. And I can confidently say that as a 24-year-old woman now, I would look back at my middle school self and just like be like, girl, you are
Yeah.
so special. You're so unique and beautiful. It's okay. And I'm so proud of that. So it's okay if there are young girls or boys listening to this that have done that before because we've all been there. I can guarantee it, whether people are willing to share or not. And it's okay if you're not willing to share. One time I was at a Riley Children's Hospital visit. As a former Riley patient, Riley Children's Hospital was one of my all-time favorite organizations to collaborate with this year. And Riley Hospital shared photos of my visit. And I don't know why this is the post that some user decided to comment on, but they were like, wow, this girl looks like she shopped at Goodwill for her outfit, and oh, her look at all the work she's had done on her face, especially her teeth. I'm just sitting there reading it like, oh my gosh, like one, okay, ouch, a little bit. But also I haven't had any work done on my face. You know what I mean? Like my first thought was like to defend, and then I was like, we don't need to engage with internet trolls. Like I'm trying to give back to the hospital that literally touched my life. But again, a title holder should be aware of the fact that it's not always going to be easy, no matter what space you go into. And just be prepared. I again, like I have a sensitive heart, but you've got to be able to just let that go. And that's one of those things that you do have to like just that does not matter. Like let that go, you know. But it happens. It does.
Why? What?
I don't know.
I'm like, when people do that, I'm like, like, aren't you tired? Like, what
Right.
a
I'm
waste of
like,
energy.
go for a walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
go eat a cookie. Like,
Literally have a
stop.
cookie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
uh, as a title holder, there's all like the business side of things too that we just don't really talk about. We don't see on social media. We see the appearances. We see like the end product of all the
Yeah.
work behind it. So
Mhm.
what was the business side of things for you as Miss Indiana? Or is, I should say. We're not done yet.
I would start by saying that Indiana has a really unique state organization in the sense that there's a lot of liberties, like from girl to girl, year to year. It's not going to look the same. And I love that. I know there are some states where you kind of have one structure and then a different girl every year. And I don't think there's one right way to do it. I think that both of those are purposeful. We're making a difference either way. In Indiana this year, something that I think was really cool for me to take on was a little bit of restructuring on my service initiative. So my CSI began as ACT, which is advocating for change through theater. So anytime that I would perform, sing, have a cabaret, anything involving performing, I would fundraise at those events. So a cabaret for hunger relief, a cabaret for Riley Children's Hospital, or inviting audience members to our theater production and having them bring canned goods for the ministry down the road. Any chance I had to perform, we would fundraise simultaneously. Although I have that passion that aligns with theater, we thought it would be purposeful to broaden the service initiative to general acts of service, because what I found in my first 2 months as Miss Indiana is that I would go and sing in third grade classrooms or volunteer at nursing homes or just lend a hand wherever I could. So although it did use theater a lot, it wasn't the only thing that I was doing to fundraise or make a difference. And we thought at a national level too, it would be a little more of an optimal experience for sponsorships or collaborations at that national level, and it wouldn't just limit us to theater partnerships. So from a business perspective, I guess, like you're saying, I just had to kind of think about, okay, how do I want to realign this on my paperwork, or what other organizations and businesses can I collaborate with? And it was a lot of fun. It opened a lot of new doors. There's an accounting firm here in Carmel, just down the road, that they were able to donate a check to the American Heart Association Fund when we fundraised for Miss America. And so I liked it because even though it kind of morphed a little bit into something different, it also opened more doors. And I think it just, it grew me as an individual, and I think really added some depth to my year.
What was bringing on sponsors, collaborating with businesses? What was that process like for you?
You really do have to lean into the connections that you have, which that's kind of the case with anything. Again, like looking for jobs or moving, like connections, it's huge. And the Miss America opportunity is filled with connections. So again, that's a great plug-in for girls all over the nation. I am fortunate enough to have a brother who worked at that business. So he was like, oh, he was so excited. My family, they were so excited when I got crowned as Miss Indiana. And so he was like, let's do something. Let me try to talk to our partners and see if they'd be interested in funding this and donating. And then I kind of looked at that process that we had in the conversations that we had over at that company, and tried to apply that same structure to local theaters and seeing how I can plug in there. Because again, like even though we grew the platform to reach a wider audience, I didn't want to leave what started it all, which was theater. So I would kind of use that same structure and plan and go into theaters and do the same thing.
That's a really cool thought too, that like I guess it's what we do, but I hadn't really thought about it in that way of like you kind of just build a blueprint off of doing it, right?
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
just do something, get started and take what works and build on it. And
yeah.
like in this case, talking about bringing on partners, like
Hmm.
what those conversations look like, the process to get those conversations started and to onboard them as partners and build that what that collaboration looks like and then copy paste and then
Yes.
edit based on the other organization that you'll be working with.
Right. And it definitely it can change because like one being an accounting firm and then one being a community theater, super different. But
Mhm.
both have that heart of wanting to give and help out in their community as much as possible.
Did you ever have any like personal insecurity or self-doubt about asking for donations or sponsorships or building those collaborations? And how did you work through that?
I I thankfully didn't have self-doubt, but it is awkward to you know what's awkward? Sometimes showing up in a sash and a crown period can be really awkward. I remember just going to a hospital event, and I mean, some of these kids are in their beds and can't really get up and do anything. And I think that they loved the sparkles, but sometimes I just thought, why do I feel a little bit out of pocket here? Why do I feel like I'm kind of coming in a little too loud in an environment that's so sensitive, you know? And so I think that that's I don't think it's something that people necessarily like don't take seriously, but I always thought in certain scenarios like even singing the national anthem sometimes, which I had the opportunity to do a lot. I love doing that, but the crowd can be distracting. And in some scenarios, I thought it would be wise to maybe just have the sash and have a little bit of a classier etiquette to it. And it changes. Sometimes people are like, oh no, sash and crown. Oh, the kids will love that. Oh, the guests will love that. And of course, but there are some elements to, I think, just being a pageant title holder in general, whether it is asking for donations or showing up and how you present yourself, that can be a little uncomfortable, and it's followed with insecurity sometimes.
Thank you for saying all of that. That is
Yeah.
something that I have not thought about in so long, and it's so true.
Yeah.
But one appearance type that I never wore my sash and crown was when I was speaking to middle schoolers or high schoolers,
Mm.
because my initiative was so serious and I wanted I wanted to connect with the students through my stories and through my words that you're right, like it would be a distraction, A, and
Mhm.
B, it felt so inappropriate
Yeah.
for the conversation that I wanted to have with those students.
Hmm. And I think there was a video I saw, I want to say last year, it was when Miss America, Madison Marsh, when she went to an event, it was a military related event. And I happened to recognize that I think she just had the sash. And my immediate thought was like, I was like, I know she didn't forget the crown. It's an event where you maybe don't need to have a sparkly hat glistening in every direction. Like this is a very serious, somber time. And I think that that's okay. I think that that's okay.
What was managing your appearances and all of your travel like?
Oh my goodness. I love Indiana for this because we have an event manager named Marietta Height. She is, I don't want to get it wrong, but she is somewhere between, I want to say 75, 85 years old. Sweetest lady ever. I love her. She is, so whenever someone books Miss Indiana through the website, she is the one who coordinates it. And she gives us the address, the time, the place, everything that we need to know. And then we take that information and pack up and show up when we're needed. And Marietta is a doll. She lives in northern Indiana. So whenever we'd have events up there, she would let us stay with her. And I will never forget staying at her house one night. And she was like, okay, well, I am not the hostess with the mostest. So if you are hungry, just go look in the kitchen for something. I just remember thinking, for some reason, that made me feel more welcome in her home than if someone was like, if you need anything, let me know. If you want me to make you something, I'll do it. Because then I was like, you're right, Marietta. I'm going to go downstairs and just look for a muffin. And then I found a muffin and then I took the muffin upstairs. Like, I loved staying with Marietta, and she has done so much for this organization. She's there all week long at state week. It stays in the Butler dorms with all the girls. She is just there to support us in any way she can, and she's amazing.
Were there any unexpected like business responsibilities that you had to learn?
I would say something that paralleled a lot with my graduate studies and then the role of Miss Indiana was always having a pitch, which that phrase alone, I think sounds a little like I don't want it to seem like elevator memorized, like I don't love that, but it's more so
Yeah.
be able to communicate effectively and authentically on the spot. And I think that that's a skill that everyone should have, and it's very much business related, but again, like having a microphone handed to me is like the number one thing that I did as Miss Indiana. I would sing a lot, I would compete sometimes, I would, go out in a space and have one-on-one conversations with people, but more than anything, you are handed a microphone and you have to be willing to speak effectively. And so I think that that's something that I had to learn more about and certainly polish.
How did you build that skill?
Just experience. I think that Miss Indiana Week last year, which I cannot believe that this is a year ago, but you prepare for the onstage question and you prepare for the interview. Every phase of competition, you find different ways to prepare for that. But when you are crowned as a state title holder, you aren't preparing to compete anymore. At least I didn't. I know some girls like they're crowned and they're like, okay, the next goal is Miss America. The next goal is competition for Miss America. And I very much had the dream of like living out the year as Miss Indiana. And I think everyone had that dream too. But I put pretty much everything into that. Like, I just want to do this all. And yes, Miss America prep. But I feel like I learned that skill by going out there and continuously doing it and learning it in an environment that was like face to face and really purposeful as opposed to like continuing to just prepare in a competition mindset. I think that that kind of separates the two a little bit, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, because experiences teach,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. So was that kind of your mindset too in preparation for the Miss Indiana competition last year? Was prepare by doing?
Yes, I think it was. I also think it was knowing exactly who I was in every room that I would go into and every competition phase that I would compete in. I remember walking into my interview and just talking, getting to know them, not worrying so much about like, did that sound impressive? Was that good enough? Was that and just talking to them. I mean, I I remember just going in there and one of the questions that the judges asked me, like they said, like, hey, I read your CSI and I'm still confused by it. Like, can you explain it a little more? And on the inside for a second, I was like, well, that's not good that they're confused by my paperwork. Like, that's pretty bad. But then it was like, no, just explain it more. Just tell them like, oh, I think I literally said, I'm sorry that it was a little bit confusing. Here's more about it. And I just clarified in about 30 seconds or 45 seconds. And it was no problem. And it just was like a good reminder that it's okay if things don't seem perfect or come out super polished. It's okay if the questions are super random because you're prepared for this. They just want to get to know you, you know?
Yeah, I was just talking to a client about interview today. She's very well spoken, very articulate, very poised, professional. And I asked her, "Are you prepared for the fluff questions?" Because I think you should be, because the judges are going to see immediately that you got this handled, but they're going to want to see, can she handle a curveball? Can she handle, like, can she lighten up and have a little fun here?
Right.
And I think your approach, like just talking to them, reminds me of like, that's how you show up at appearances as Miss Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
So if the judges are looking for the next Miss Indiana, shouldn't you show up and talk to them as if you were talking to people at an appearance?
Absolutely. And I even can add to your point by saying, like, yes, the first few questions in my interview were a little more like job related. Tell us more about this. And then out of nowhere, the judge in the middle with like dagger eyes just goes, what's the craziest thing you've ever done?
Mhm.
And I mean, it stumps you because then you're like, oh my gosh, like, first of all, I don't even know. And then you're like, how do I phrase this? And what do you know, because
Yeah.
define crazy,
Yep.
like, what is it, you know?
Right.
And I told a story about my childhood. Like my sister and I, we were at like church camp and then we jumped in a pool with our clothes on. And we thought it was so funny that we jumped in a pool at church camp with our clothes on. Like that's such a child, like 8 and 9 year old girls. Like we were like, oh my gosh, we're jumping in and we don't even have our bathing suit. Like again, like that was like a funny, crazy memory. And I just told
Mhm.
it in a way to kind of be like, isn't that so silly? But again, like you just have to be prepared for them to say, well, what is your favorite color? And it's a little awkward if you're just like, blue, you know, because then it's like, well, why blue? Is there a childhood memory about blue? Like, I do think it's important, like, just remind yourself you're getting to know these people, and it's okay if you don't feel like you're on a TED talk or, if, you know, just, uh, just show up as who you are.
And don't judge your interview by the questions that they asked you,
Absolutely.
right? Like
Yes.
people get to know you by how you handle yourself, not with what you talk about. So often I think we hear this like, I want them to know this, 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 and this about me by the time I leave that room. And I'm like, you got to show them who you are. You can't tell them who you are.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
because when you're at appearances, and I'm sure you can vouch for this too, like, you're not going to show up and just like give everyone the verbal resume of your life.
Right.
But they're going to get a feel for who you are, and they're going to see your warmth and your compassion and your character just by how you listen to them and how
Mhm.
you genuinely interact with them. And so if judges are asking you off the wall questions, don't spin it into your CSI. Don't spin it into how you're going to do the job. Like, answer the question because they genuinely want to know.
Yes. And I agree with everything you're saying, especially the part of warmth. You know, are you super rehearsed? Are you robotic? Are you, you know, if they ask you like, you know, is your favorite color yellow? That's my favorite color. I love yellow. I have a yellow cup right here. But you know, if they ask you that, are you going to say yellow was first defined by like it's like, no, I had a blanket when I was a baby and it was yellow. And I
Yeah.
love it, you know, and also like if they do ask you, if someone over here asks you the question, include everybody because a really good state title holder is going to include every single person in that room, even the person in the back, even the kid who is looking down. Like you have to find a way to be inclusive and that's it's got to be genuine. You know, I think that's where that warmth that you mentioned, I love that word. That's where that comes in.
Yeah. How was preparing for Miss America different? You know, we've touched on this a little bit, you know, like you knew what you were going into at Miss Indiana because you had been there before. And so we had a different mindset going in this second time around when you won. There was no way of really knowing what it was going to look like and
Right.
feel like at Miss America. So how was the preparation different with that in mind?
I think that I just full transparency, I think preparing for Miss Indiana, I knew exactly what I wanted. And I think what I wanted was to leave it all out there and walk away as Miss Indiana and have that year as Miss Indiana. So then while preparing for Miss America, I had moments where I was like, but I'm being Miss Indiana right now, you know? And I think that again, it's okay in my opinion anyway, if you are fully going to the Miss America competition to just be there. I think that that's okay. I did prep for it. I practiced walking for like 3 hours one day. We worked on my talent. I loved the talent element at Miss America. That was like a dream come true. And again, though, it was just like I walked off stage after seeing my talent, and that did bring me to tears because of the immense gratitude that I felt. And so I do think that preparing for Miss Indiana, I think I was preparing to be Kalyn as Miss Indiana. Whereas Miss America, I think you're preparing to be Miss America because it's Miss America. And it's okay if that role is already kind of laid out and there's a structure or a plan or, national sponsorships that align specifically with someone's CSI or someone's the branding that year. Like, I think that that's okay. And if you are changing every little thing about yourself to be a certain title, then it'd be really hard if you became that title. Do you know what I mean? And it's not in any way coming from a place of negativity. I do not want it to come off that way. I just want it to be known that, you know, all but one girl will walk away as their state title holder when they return from Miss America. And for the one girl, I'm like beyond impressed, proud. Like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, you're Miss America. That is like the coolest thing ever. At the same time, though, we get to come back to our states and live out a dream that we once prepared for or prayed for. And I think sometimes that can get lost in translation. And so preparing for the two can be very different. And they're completely different competitions too. But I'm just so thankful I got to be part of both. It's really cool to be able to say that.
What I'm loving about this conversation that I'm picking up on a lot is that you are very like, that's okay. And that's okay too. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if it's not that, then that's okay too.
Mhm.
And what you're doing a beautiful job of, and I don't know if I can explain this very well, but like you're talking about circumstances, you're talking about ways that things are run, you're talking about choices, but you're also doing this really beautiful thing where you're like, and I'm okay with like not fitting into that or not wanting that. Or, you know, like it's very much like all of that's okay. And it's okay if you don't like that. And I'm okay too. Like over here, just doing me, just being me.
Well, I think that most girls will probably see themselves in that and think like, oh, like I guess I didn't like there's a student that works at Butler and she's a sophomore right now and she's a student intern. And she was like, well, I haven't done pageants in so long, so I probably wouldn't start them again. And I'm like, no, I didn't do them until college. I started them when I was 18 years old. And I was like, you don't have to, there doesn't have to be a one model, one shoe fit. Like you fill your own shoes. You absolutely do that. And if you're in the middle of your science dream, your theater dream, your whatever it is, you can throw a pageant in there. You can, and you can have it last for 1 year. You can have it last for 10 years. You can do whatever you want with it. And so that is my hope that like my story ended up this way and it is okay because more often than not, I think that's where people will see themselves no matter what their title is.
I judged a national competition, the Miss Petite USA, um, here in Milwaukee a few years back. And I judged like the Mrs. Ms. and Elite division, the older women. And I mean, there were women that were grandmothers competing in their very first pageant.
That's
Ah,
so cool.
exactly. So as you're talking about this, like just saying, like, just go for it, even if it hasn't been a while, like if it's on your heart, just do it because why not?
Yeah. And again, it's okay. Like Miss Indiana is coming to a close, but there are so many things beginning for me. And I think that sometimes we think we have to have a certain outcome or placement or feeling or bring something back home. And it's like, no, you're coming back home as Miss Indiana or, Miss Michigan, Miss Illinois, whatever it is. And you did something really phenomenal. And so I just hope that local title holders feel that way, getting to compete at their state competition for the first time. And moving forward, I really hope that that message is, hey, if your goal is to literally just do it or be there, or some days is if your goal is to get out of bed and you do, then that's also okay. Like life is so I don't there's that's something I don't have a word for. Life is so be kind to one another and help the next girl in line however you can and just remind each other it's okay.
Right. I have a few clients right now that are going to state and they do not want to win. And there's a limiting belief that comes with that because so often I've heard, maybe you've heard this too, like, why wouldn't you want to win? You're going to be there. Like, why wouldn't you want to win? Well, a lot of reasons. And so I just want to like validate that. If you're listening right now and you're preparing and you're feeling all this pressure because, you feel like you're supposed to want this really bad, but like in your gut, you just don't because you love being the local title holder, or like you were talking about, Kalyn, like loved being Miss Indiana. And it's not that like you wouldn't take on the opportunity if it was given to you,
Course,
and
of
run
course.
with it and be so
Mhm.
grateful for it. But like, it's okay to
Yeah.
not want that next level.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And I think that some people maybe don't recognize what wanting it means. Do you know what you're wanting? And if you do and you're like, yes, I want all of it, it's like, that's awesome. You should go for it. You're doing everything right? But it's okay. Like if you're like, I do want it, but I don't want to say I want it, that's okay too. You don't have to say anything. It's okay if you go in and you're like, I don't know what to say.
Mhm.
Just show up. Put the one foot in front of the other. It's just important that I think like you don't have to arrive at some specific conclusion for every little thing in your life. Like you're allowed to just go with the flow. Just prepare for it. Prepare for the flow. you know, have your own back, but um it's okay. It
Mhm.
is.
Yeah. It's okay to enjoy other things in life. And in fact, you should be enjoying other things in life, not just pageants. Like if pageants are your life, then I think you maybe need to get a life. Like, sorry to sound so harsh. My coach that I had worked with way back when used to say that or something very similar to that. Like,
No,
yeah,
you're
that's so true.
I agree. I agree with you. And I think that at a pageant, especially in Miss America, has so many elements that can spark an interest. Like the talent aspect as a theater girl, oh my gosh, like that kind of got me into it. And then growing in communication skills, the scholarship opportunities, we have other things going on outside of it. And how could you possibly be in it only for the pageant when there's so many other things it's preparing you for? Like that is advice I'd give to any girl competing is think about why you're here and what you can truly take away from this down the road. Like there's so much more to life.
There is. Yeah. And there's also like this big buildup to achieving your dream, getting to the national stage, and then it's done. How
Mhm.
did you feel coming home from your experience at Miss America?
Oh my goodness. I don't think I had the most reliable emotions because I get motion sick so
Oh,
bad. It's like it's the worst. So flying from Indiana to Florida, I I was on Dramamine. I took Dramamine, like the fly, like not like the drowsy, non-drowsy. And so when I was boarding the flight after Miss America, like after it was all over, after all these emotions, and then this Dramamine made me like really tired. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like eating, I was like eating a steak and shake burger because they're so good. And then I started like crying. And I remember looking at my mom and I was like, I think I'm really tired. I'm like, I need to sleep. And I was like, but I'm so hungry at the same time. And I was like, I think I'm just feeling it all. Like, I was like, I have so much gratitude. I'm also kind of sad that it's over. Like, I don't know how to feel. And I was like, but this burger is so good. And so, like, just you feel it all. And I think like we are women, we have hormones. That's also okay to feel things that you're like, why am I so like emotional? That's also part of life and that's also okay. But, all jokes aside, there is an element of like, what just happened? Like that was so crazy. Did I capitalize on every opportunity? I was there, right? Like you just kind of have all these, oh my goodness. It was a 10-day stretch of like, I think before I could really realize what was happening, I was already on my way back home. But I think that proves, like my director told me, he was like, that means you were living in the moment. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. Like, I think I was so present that it happened. And then all of a sudden I was on my way back and it's because I was there full throttle. And it is hard. You don't sleep a whole lot. And there is hair and makeup at 4 in the morning and you got to keep up. But again, like it's it's an experience and it's one experience and this beautiful run of life. And I'm really glad I got to do it. And I loved getting to come back home to Indiana too.
How did you handle motion sickness driving, or do you not get it when you're driving?
When I'm driving, I'm okay. Unless
Okay.
there's like really intense start stop traffic, I'm fine, which is so like I really want to study that. I'm not a science girl, so maybe I want someone else to study that. But I just get so severely motion sick and it's not great.
No.
But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to say when you said about being hormonal and we're women and we have like all of these different feelings, like why am I feeling this way is a very common thing that I ask myself and I hear other people ask themselves. And I think it's important to remember we don't need to know why. Like we don't have to have a reason for why we're feeling what we're feeling. It's more important to figure out how you're going to manage it and take care of
Yes.
yourself in that moment with those big
Yes.
feelings.
Yes, ma'am. And I have learned new feelings over the last year. And maybe it was because of the role that I've had. Like I have had different emotions that I didn't know I could feel, or different levels of exhaustion that I didn't know my body could actually reach. And take care of yourself. That is very important to take care of yourself, whether that's sleep or your diet, getting exercise, your skin, like we wear makeup a lot as pageant women. Give your skin like let it breathe.
Yes, exactly. All the self-care. Call that the glam plan and fearlessly authentic. Just like all the little things, drinking enough water, getting the sleep, doing some skincare, just all part of the glam plan to help you feel your best.
Oh yeah.
Okay, sadly, we are running out of time. And I feel like we could talk for hours because there's just so much beautiful insight that you're bringing to the table. And it's also sparking all of these like thoughts for me, like going deeper. So I really, really appreciate your just heart and sharing that with me and with the Sash and Soul community today. So as we wrap up, let's talk about like the legacy that you're leaving and what you hope for the next Miss Indiana.
Oh man. I hope I can convey this in, like a good few sentences, but just as cliche as it sounds, kindness can go so far. It can literally change the world. And I know there's a competition. I know there's a wardrobe and material. And I know when you think of a pageant, I know a lot of things come to mind immediately. But when you really help that next girl in line, whether that's zipping her up in a dress or literally just giving her a smile backstage, hugging someone when they're at a low. And this goes beyond a pageant competition, just being there for people. Like waving at someone across the street, smile. I mean, like, life is so precious, and people are the ultimate reason that we're here. I think it's to lean on one another and go through this together. That's why there's so many people on this planet, in my opinion. And I think God wants this place to be really happy. And if you have an opportunity to be a leader and in a role where people look up to you, be positive, be kind. Do not underestimate the power of just being there for somebody. Um, I don't know. I just hope that that legacy is, it can be a year that's unexpected. It can be messy. It can be random. It can look nothing like the year before. But again, it's okay. And always come back to being a good person and kind to the woman next to you.
I'm going to add on to that too, if you don't mind. Be kind to yourself. Like, this is part of the energy that I'm feeling from you is like, I hear the love that you put out there to other people and the grace that you give other people for their human experiences and the choices they make and how, how they see the world, even if it's different from you. What the lesson that I've learned here with you is that when we're able to be kind to ourselves and have that self-compassion, we are able to see other people for the human that they are. And, I say this like at competition, stress is going to magnify and personify in different ways for different people. And for those that might be struggling with some, lack of self-confidence or comparison or stress or pressure or whatever it might be, sometimes that personification of their stress comes out as like a mean girl, or saying things that are maybe off color for what they would typically do. And I think the best things that we can do for ourselves and for that person and for our experience all around is to have compassion for them and understand that it's not about us, that maybe they're having a bad day. That does not by any means excuse behavior, but at least we can release that and not, take that on ourselves and like add to our stress that we're already experiencing as well. So I loved that. That was my takeaway from this conversation with you, and that aha for me of like, I have noticed the more that I've been able to be self-accepting and kind to myself, the more compassion I'm able to extend to other people and see them for the beautiful human that they are in all of their experiences and existence. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much for your time tonight.
It was a pleasure.
Good. I'm so glad. Congratulations to you on experiencing a dream year and achieving your goal and on getting engaged and going on to like more amazing things in your life, because you are a living example that, like you said earlier on, you can be part of this world for a time, and then you can leave this world and go do other things and live your life in so many different beautiful ways. And you're doing that. And so that's so awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And as for the rest of you, I have to go take care of a client who texted me as we were recording. I was like, do you have time for a mindset call? She's at competition this week. And I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it. So I'm going to hop off and call her. I will be back again next week with more for you on Sash and Soul. Until then, take care of yourselves, be kind to yourself and others, as Kalyn said. And we'll talk to you later. Bye. If you've been working so hard, but still feel like something's missing, then I want to personally invite you to schedule a free coaching consultation. This is for you if you're tired of overthinking every detail. You're doing everything you can to prepare, practicing your walk, your talent, interview, refining your paperwork, and staying up late analyzing every possible outcome. You put in the work, but still question if you're doing enough or if you are enough. So in just one call, we'll talk through where you're at, what's been holding you back, and how you can start showing up fully prepared to win the title and actually do the job once you get it. If you're looking for more than just surface level prep and you're ready to prepare with strategy, support, and confidence that actually lasts, I'd love to be part of your process. Head to the link in the show description to grab your spot, and I'll see you there.